Did Cole Chaney just invent grunge country? On his new album, In the Shadow of the Mountain, Cole Chaney once again showcases his contemplative lyrics and string band forward sound, but leans into vocal performances and compositional choices that are reminiscent of 90s grunge bands like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam, for an experience unlike anything I've heard from any other Appalachian artist. I'm Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Let's get into what makes this album tick. I've been following Cole Chaney since his 2021 debut album, Mercy, which amassed a following for its beautiful songwriting and simple yet catchy arrangements, relying heavily on fiddle, mandolin, and of course the strength of Chaney's own powerful voice. As a Kentucky singer-songwriter, many were quick to make the Childers comparison, and while there's certainly some influence there was always an air of authenticity to Chaney's music that set him apart from the Childers imitators. Over the past few years, Chaney has toured pretty heavily and gained a following, but has held out on releasing any new music now for almost 3 years, following his 2022 Our Vinyl session. I've been fortunate enough to see Cole Chaney live twice now, opening for Flatland Cavalry and Shane Smith and the Saints. And when I saw him earlier this year, I noticed that his live band had grown from being a 3-piece to a 5-piece band, which, although it made translating some of the Mercy material a little bit trickier, it did indicate to me that he was interested in expanding his sound and taking it into new territories. And a few months back, when we got our first taste of this new album through the single Alone, it became clear that Chaney was pushing into new territory musically, not only for himself, but for roots music generally. Fans were quick to note the Eddie Vedder-esque vocal performance on this song, as well as how the melodies and chord structure were more in line with grunge music than they were country and folk, despite the more traditional instrumentation present on this song. Chaney started to become a pretty buzzy artist as the summer went on, and by the time In the Shadow of the Mountain came out last week, it's fair to say that it was one of the most anticipated albums of the year among underground country music fans. The album begins with the instrumental intro Into, which sets the stage through a repetitive, drop-tuning acoustic guitar riff, accented by punches from the kick drum, as well as an atmospheric, droning fiddle, growing in intensity before breaking away as we prepare to launch into the album's title track. I love this approach to starting an album. It's kind of like having the theme play during the opening credits of a movie, and I think for this current generation of Americana and country artists, we can really look to Sturgill as sort of leading the way on this. He's, in his most recent albums, like to have some sort of instrumental theme playing at the very beginning of the album to set the mood, whether that's the most direct example of this, which is in Sound and Fury with the song Ronin, which is just 2 minutes of electric guitar jamming before we get into the lyrical content of the album, or on songs like Pollywog Welcome to Earth or Swamps of Sadness, where there's about a minute of instrumental before we hear Sturgill's voice come in on the track. I think if you're an album-focused artist, it's a great way to set the listener up for the experience. There are a lot of high points across this album, and I think that eruption into the album's title track, The Shadow of the Mountain, is certainly one of them. Much in the same way as the instrumental intro establishes the tone for the listener, this song establishes the setting that these songs take place in, turning Cole's rural Kentucky home into a character in of itself. Much has been written about the after effects of big business leaving small towns, as well as the way that the opioid epidemic has hit coal country the hardest. But this song sticks out to me for 2 particular reasons. One, the pain and rage that you can hear behind Cole's voice. And 2, that despite that pain and rage, you can tell that there's some real genuine love for the place he comes from in this song. I'm not sure if he's speaking as himself or as a character in this song, but it's clear that the narrator has a deep sense of passion and loyalty for his rural Kentucky home. And that's in spite of the dangers and even the harm it has caused him. The loss of his dad to drugs, the loss of others to mining disasters and disease. But that connection is so strong that he has no desire to leave, and declares that he wants to be buried there amongst his kin. And I think that's very real. I think a lot of us feel that strong connection to the place that we come from. Or even if we don't, we still long for that sense of home. There's a lot of world weariness to this album, displayed in songs like Feels Like Rain, where Chaney shares how lost he feels, or in Spirit, an honestly quite depressing song where it seems like he's just ready to lay down and die. Juxtapose that with a song like Grind, where Chaney is sharing what he learned from his dad about the value of hard work, And you start to wonder if Chaney might be struggling with a sense of burnout. After all, he has been chasing this thing pretty hard the past couple of years, and the music industry does have a reputation of pushing people beyond their limit. That's not to say that there isn't any hope on this album, but one of the things I've kind of walked away from it thinking is that Chaney's idea of personal freedom is built around the idea of hard work, and raging against anything that might threaten the things that you've built through your labor. Sonically, the grunge infusion sets this album apart from many of Chaney's contemporaries and opens up new possibilities for roots music. Now, I've already hinted at this a few times, but one of the things I find really interesting about this album is that the grunge influence comes through more on the composition than it does on the instrumentation. Let me explain. In some ways, you could draw a parallel to Nirvana's famous MTV Unplugged performance. After all, the songs are definitely more on the quiet, smoldering wavelength than a full rock performance. But that only really feels sufficient as a starting place to developing this sound. This album is full of fiddle and mandolin, acoustic guitar and upright bass, there's some dobro and there's some keys and some spots throughout. But there's nothing really that's like loud and in your face like an electric guitar, like you might expect from the grunge sound. But what it does have are big, drawn-out vocal melodies with pained yells, drop tunings, switching to major chords and minor progressions, all elements that are rather typical of grunge music from a theory perspective. Whether this was intentional or just Chaney and his band subconsciously channeling those influences, who's to say? But that influence is definitely there. For example, the bass part on Alone, although it sounds like it was probably played on an upright bass, follows a style that sounds like it was written for rock, not country. Lyrically, there are some dark themes explored here. Self-harm and mental illness, loss and mortality, isolation, exploitation, end of love, etc. All themes that aren't unique to grunge, but are certainly common within it. Now, not every song on this album has that grunge-tinted quality. I don't feel like it's present on songs like The Unsatisfied or Charlene, which fit more as country ballads. The Unsatisfied is Chaney's reflection on how he got to where he is as a musician and where he wants to go. Whereas Charlene is the story of his grandparents and the time that they spent apart when his granddad was stationed at an army base in West Germany during the 1960s. And even though I say these songs don't display the same grunge influence as other songs on the album do, they blend in well enough that they never feel out of place. And you have to give a lot of credit to Chaney's band, as well as producer Dwayne Lundy, for bridging that gap. Most critiques I have for this album are rather minute, like, I'd like to hear Chaney's voice up a little bit in the mix on The Unsatisfied, which is probably my favorite song on the album. If there's one real criticism I have of the album, it's that we've already heard about a third of the songs on this album in Chaney's Our Vinyl session. Now, Our Vinyl sessions aren't really seen as an official artist release in the same way that a studio album might be, and Chaney certainly expanded upon the arrangements of these songs, bringing in the full band to record on them. But I could imagine that if you've been waiting for 4 years for a new Cole Chaney album, it might be a little bit disappointing to only get 5 new songs and 1 instrumental. That said, I haven't really seen anyone complain about this, and most fans I've seen have been embracing the new versions of these tracks, so this might actually be a non-issue. If you're a country music fan who grew up on the sounds of Seattle grunge bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden, this album is certainly for you. But I also don't think you have to be a big fan of this style of music in order to enjoy it. I mean, I'm not more than a casual grunge listener, I don't really go too far beyond the hits in that genre, but to me this is a standout album for 2025, and I really can't wait to see where Chaney and this sound go from here. Rolling Stone has already declared him the next rising artist from Kentucky, putting him up alongside Sturgill, Stapleton, and Childers. Which, like anything, take it with a grain of salt. But I think given what he has already accomplished with Mercy, and the intensifying fan reaction to this new album, I think his career is only going to continue to grow. I'll be curious to see if other artists appear who try to capture this sound. After all, it's pretty unique and has a potential to grow, especially right now where it seems like 90s nostalgia is at a high. I can envision this sound going far, even with people who might not typically be country music fans. Alright, that's all I've got right now. What do you think about this new Cole Chaney album? Are you excited about grunge country or not really feeling it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Brian Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I talk about independent roots music on this channel, Americana, country, folk, all that kind of stuff. And if you follow along, I might be talking about some of your favorite artists here soon. Thanks for watching.